All right, hello. Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We are continuing our One Ring 2nd Edition campaign today, going through Waking of Angmar. We are down one of our dwarves, but fortunately it's our lesser dwarf, so we decided to persevere. Just kidding. We miss Steven. But we're going to play on without him today, as this is going to mainly be a travel episode, I think. But we're going to play on without him at his blessing, and he'll return next week. To whatever horrible shenanigans we can get him into. We have to do something to him because that's essentially what we did last night in the Conan game. And that's what we do with Matt's character. Whenever he misses a Call of Cthulhu game, we give him another personality. So we have to get something. We don't kill a character, but we leave a mark in their absence somehow. So
possibly change the mind.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, sorry, you're part vampire now and you're missing some of your vigor. But hey, other than that, you're fine. You're fine. So if you have any ideas in chat or later on the YouTube comments, please go ahead and drop a fun little way that we can just alter just for fun. But that's that. But yeah, we're on episode 57. We are finally going to be leaving Tharbad today. It's been a very adventurous, I don't know, about 10 episodes or so, I think, with some very, very tough combats. But we are going to be getting back to our journey phase. It's going to be Terranet's first journey phase. So we'll see how this goes. But before we do all that, why don't we introduce our characters and then we'll dive in. So Long, once more, tell us about Floy.
I'm Floy, a 71-year-old treasure hunting dwarf coming from the Blue Mountains. Got a nice piece of armor, nice piece of weaponry, and that's what I do.
Perfect. Excellent. You have your mithril armor that you discovered in the grimy depths of a Rudauer keep many episodes ago en route to your first trip to Angmar. And your weapon, however, is more recent, as that was something you were rewarded after some work you did in the Blue Mountains. Next up, we've got Gilly Kettlegrass. Ashley, tell us about Gilly.
I'm playing Gilly. She is our Bree Hobbit. And yeah, she's really focused on improving her bow skills and just intensely focusing on bettering her healing to try and keep people alive. She's still a little traumatized. Add some spice into there. And I think we should give him a wife because Long's got a fairy wife.
That's true. Yes, that's definitely true. We do love coupling up in this.
We love yearning in general.
Oh my gosh. I was throwing some. Did I tell you this, Ashley? I have a new idea for a game.
No.
I gave it to Melissa. Melissa, did I send you? Or no, maybe it was Steven I sent it to. So
it was Steven.
Over on the Discord channel, if you follow the Discord with DOK, with us, the Lollygaggers, with Grim Perilous, it's people know that I kind of thirst after Timothy Oliphant just a little, just a little, and we also have this like running joke of yearning from our Regency Cthulhu time. What did I call it? I can't remember, but I came up with a game where I wanted to essentially be about thirsting after Timothy Oliphant. So the game idea, and this is all copyright, by the way. Lawyers have been involved, so don't try to steal this from me. It's called Hold Me Closely, Timothy Oliphant, where everyone essentially competes for Timothy Oliphant's affections by yearning after him, and there are sploosh saves. So you have to I'm sorry, Steven.
No.
I'm gonna need you to roll for a sploosh save here, and that's what we're going with. So anyway,
You keep calling it a game. It sounds like just a Wednesday.
it really he is just divine, that man. And, I don't care. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move down to the bottom row. Melissa, my wife, go ahead. Tell us about Aurenial.
So Aurenial is our Ranger of the North champion. She has been working on her sword play skills over the course of the campaign. She's got Minozagar. She's been getting better with that one. Decent with bow skills, but she definitely cedes the better bow skills of the Fellowship to Gilly for sure. She has been both excited and a little anxious about the fact that she's got a close friend of hers now within the fellowship, and that we are on the move in a northerly direction, and that seems to be the direction that we're going to be going for a bit. So this is a change of direction and cause for some anxiety.
Very nice. Very nice. You all have to drink as we have our hydrated. Did I ever tell you where that comes from? That came from Veronique and I. We were in a Vaesen game where we just started talking about hydrating the whole time and just became a running joke. That's where that comes from. Okay.
Love that.
And as we said, no Steven. So I will go ahead and introduce Daggett. I'm Daggett. Grr. Whatever the party wants to do, I'm gonna do the opposite. Fancy new treasure. Here, random stranger. You take it.
You
I'm
forgot.
Daggett.
I have block Fong.
Yes. Don't get in a fight with me, or else I'm gonna use block Fong. But you're probably just gonna punch me in the face and I'm gonna get knocked out. So there's that. So that's Daggett.
Pretty good
It's like,
Steven impressions from both
it's like
of
he's
you.
here,
Yeah, I thought he was here for a second.
right? Close your eyes and like you wouldn't even know. But also we do use we reuse some of the art from the book as our tokens, and the one you see on the screen if you're watching this is the one that Steven picked for Daggett, big old bushy old man beard. And then finally we've got Tara Neth. Might try to tell us about Tara.
Tara is a warden ranger, and as Renil said, old friend to Aerie, but new friend to the rest of the fellowship, and really excited / nervous to be heading north and out of Tharbad, where she's been for several weeks at this point. So time to move on. And she's been here a little longer than she planned to, but is grateful to have a reason to leave, and also sad about leaving this place that started to feel familiar.
Indeed. And it is not not a common thing usually for Rangers of the
No.
North to feel at home elsewhere, especially when there's none of their own kind around. So Tharbad was an interesting place because it is not, the leadership there is certainly not the most moral or ethical, but at the same time, they have managed to keep this place together when otherwise it would probably fall apart. So it's a very, I love the complexity of the place where it's not just kind
It
of
is
clear
like
black
from a
and white.
meta perspective, I love the nuance of Tharbad, as a community.
I could definitely see us if we, whenever we do a second campaign of this, and that's probably a win, not an if, I'm pretty sure. I could see Tharbad being a starting point for a different sort of set of characters, a less, I don't want to say naive where we started this. That's overstating it, but you all were, as we were just talking about before we came on, you were young and kind of really just kind of getting your feet wet here. But we could start for a more grizzled campaign. Though I do think the next time we run this, I'm probably going to do an Eastern, maybe Dale, maybe Mirkwood, maybe Gondor, something like that. Maybe even further and go all the way to Rune. We'll see. Okay, so that is everybody. So we're going to just do a quick summary and then we'll dive in. So last time we picked up right in the middle of the battle with Aglor the Unbroken, that extremely powerful orc that had been terrorizing the hills south of Tharbad. And we picked up immediately after Daggett was taken down by this man, nearly killed. And all of you raced to help. You really did. Floy, and almost to your detriment, in fact, because as you raced and kind of crowded in, some of the strategic footing, maybe it allowed for you're kind of racing in to get your positioning maybe not the most effective. Because what happened shortly thereafter, very quickly, is Floy also went down, and that was terrifying. We still talk about that in the last couple of weeks, how terrifying that was. Because whenever Floy goes down in a fight, you're in trouble.
Yeah, our heavy hitter.
Yeah, I mean, Floy is your big time damage dealer. So after that, it was pretty impressive though. As Aurenial and Taraneth, you went toe to toe with this armored orc and his lieutenants in melee combat, kind of ducking and weaving and making very good use of that knockback mechanic in the game. Gilly had had a perch up on the rooftop, this collapsed roof of this keep, and was firing down in. And I think it was Gilly who actually struck the killing blow, which happens very frequently, in fact, that actually felled Aglor finally. Afterwards, Murdoch, the younger son of Master Gurnow, he took a couple of his people, chased after some of the goblins and orcs that tried to flee. He was also very angry because some of his people had died in the battle. But the older brother, Tharnow, friend of Terra, he did manage to kind of quiet him and exert sort of his seniority. While you were searching through the orc bodies and the equipment, you discovered some interesting facts, actually, and possibly alarming facts. You found a similar maker's mark to Floyd's mithril armor that you had heard was crafted long ago, around the time in which mithril was actually discovered. And it was by the history, it had something to do with a betrayer dwarf. And somehow that knowledge or that information has been passed down perhaps over the centuries, over an age, in fact. So that knowledge has been passed on to new generations because some of the equipment bore that same or very similar maker's mark. The second thing you noticed was that Aglor and some of the other lieutenants had brands burnt onto their skin that happened to have a lot of the same imagery, the same runes, the same markings that were on the door, that strange door to Othran Gul, that required you to essentially sacrifice blood to feed the door to let it open. So it was very dark experiments that had been going on. And Aglor, being a relatively young orc, suggests that maybe those dark experiments are continuing. Now, with that knowledge, you'd eventually return to Tharbad. You held counsel with Master Gurnow, and true to his word, he let you all take Thorvum and Thebe, release them from their contract, from their imprisonment, and everyone was in a good mood, other than Murdoch. There was a celebratory feast. We got to see some very nice moments between Terra and Tharnow specifically. And the next day, we saw Floy do a little wingman action, but also recruit Tharnow, unbeknownst to Terra, to the larger fellowship, hoping to get his assistance when you all do, in fact, march back on Angmar. We also saw Gilly spend some time with Agna, and Agna was very distraught over Gilly's decision to go back to Angmar to fight with these people because she's actually intelligent. And all of these dumb meatheads are the ones who should be taking the hits, not Gilly. But eventually she resupplied you with a bunch of parchment and ink and on all of that. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick up maybe a couple days, maybe 2 days after that celebratory feast. We're going to say you wake up before dawn in the Bridge Inn. All of you smell the scent of fresh meats, bacon perhaps of some kind. You go down with your packs, and you can see that Titus has prepared a breakfast feast for all of you. You can see that he's also folded together these different provision packs. Explains that there's some dried turkey meat, some apples from the orchards within the city. You can even see he's pieced together some small casks of ale from Milton the brewer that is renowned to make very good mead and very good ale. And he also has, with the help of Tharnow, collected some basic maps and things like that so that you can plan your journey. Give you all a moment if you have anything else you wanted to do, but otherwise we can dive right into the journey phase.
The only thing Tara would like to do is to hand Titus a note to be delivered to Tharnow.
Should I read it right now? You want me to read it right now?
I'd prefer you didn't.
It's okay. I don't know how to read anyway.
Don't give it to him until after we've left.
After you left, okay, fine. Okay, I don't even know what it says. I can look at it if you want, but I don't even know.
No, you
really, read it to him? Because if you want me to read it to him,
him,
you have to teach me how to read first.
and kind of look pleadingly at Gilly to get her out of this.
What? And she has her journal out, and she's just like going over her notes and her plans for our travel.
Oh, Titus wants to learn how to read. Okay, bye.
Okay. So he will tuck it away. Okay. After they leave, I'll have to go learn how to read and then read this to Tharnow. And that's what he says as he starts walking past Gilly, where Gilly's documenting in the journal.
At this point, my way the player wants to hear it right in Titus's voice.
Titus, by the way, Thurnow could probably assist you in learning to read the letter.
That's a very good idea, because he can read. He's very smart, that one.
Exactly.
Much smarter than the rest of his brothers, who are all made of horse dung. Okay. Got it. That's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Kettlegrass. Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Gilly.
right, I'm gonna miss you, Titus. Are you sure you don't want to come with us?
I am sure. If
all
I
right.
went, who would feed people? Who would make sure they eat? Who would make sure they're safe and tucked in their beds at night?
That's true.
So no one comes by and
very
slashes their
important job.
throats and stabs them in the chest at night. Who else could do it?
It's true.
It's an essential task I have here. I am an essential worker.
All right. Well, bye, Titus. And
Bye.
immediately follows after Tara.
All right. Tolkien Purist, thank you so much for those bits. Okay, so let's dive into the journey phase, right? Fair enough? All right, so let's, this is going to be the first time that my trade's in on this, so let me share the document with you all so that you can, so we'll go through this one at a time. So if you're, this is like your first time joining us, if you've never seen this before in the stream, one of the things that you do within One Ring is you journey. It's makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I forgot to put Steven's cover on this page too. So let me, so right now we don't see him. Oopsie daisy. So basically, where is it that you all want to travel to? If you want to explain that to folks while I get this set up really fast.
I was imagining that this would be a relatively kind of like follow the river kind of a situation.
Yeah. We're looking to go to the ranger settlement that's over by the angle. So, yeah.
Tara's going to know better than any of us where exactly we're going.
So, Tara knows, my twin doesn't. But assuming that we can plot a pretty straightforward path along the river.
Yeah, so
with
we're
the
going to
maps
follow.
that we have.
Yeah, Loudwater.
Okay, so there's one thing I want to remind everybody of this is that in Lord of the Rings, in One Ring, there aren't really bridges. So you're basically going to so river crossings are a thing. It's not something that's necessarily easily done. Tara, you would know specifically that the Horwell, which in the Loudwater, which is what kind of makes that sort of intersection, which becomes the Grey Flood. I'll ping it right here. You know that crossing those rivers is no simple task, especially since you have 3 ponies and horses with you. So one of the things you have to account for when you're doing journeying is, okay, we're going to have to do a river crossing, or we're going to have to do mountain crossings or such like that. The only known crossing to get across the Horwell is the last bridge, which means traveling all the way up to the Great East Road. Which would be a couple extra days worth of travel. Otherwise, you all will be probably spending some time, and there's potential for something bad to happen. Who knows, as you try to cross over. So that's something to consider as you're drawing your route. Is where would you want to cross, or how would you want to cross? You can certainly just try to cross in the middle of the wild. That's fine, but it's not just like an instant thing. It would take some time to do.
Right. So I think that's the question posed by Tara to the fellowship is, I have not traveled with you before. So what do you prefer? If it was just me, I would just cross the river, but it is not just me.
You have many horses, and I don't think we're in much of a rush. We can take the long way around, across the bridge.
Okay.
So we'll stay north of the Horwell.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
That's the plan.
okay, so someone just drew it for me already. Perfect. Okay, so let's thank you to whoever did it. Once we get into the actual angle area, Tara, you have much more familiarity with where some of those places are. I sent you some notes earlier, but there's
thank you.
certain places you can go. But for now, you're going to be basically traveling up So if I'm looking this correctly, you're going to be traveling up the Grey Flood a ways. You're going to probably pass by where you actually had the fight with the Nazgul. Eventually, you're going to reach this forest just west of, west and north of the Grey Flood, west of the Horwell. And you're going to try to skirt that until you get up to the Great East Road, cross over the last bridge with greater safety, and then come back down. It's probably an extra couple of days, but it's probably a safer route for an extra couple of days trade-off. Perfect. Okay, so then the next thing we should do is we got to figure out everyone's roles. So if you look, Maitre, in that document I just shared on Foundry, there are 4 roles that people can take within the journey phase. There's 4 of you, so we'll just say the 4 of you can take them, and you can kind of figure it out. So the guide is the one who sort of determines the basic route as you're moving along. And what that means is mechanically, you're going to make a travel roll, and depending on how you do, there's a certain amount of encounters that you're going to have along the way. And how well you do on the travel roll mechanically determines the frequency of it. Like how many hexes on the GM side of the map does it take before an encounter pops. The hunter is in charge of like finding food in the wild, and you're gonna roll hunting tests. So whenever those encounters do pop up, they target a specific role within the phase. So it could be like this specific encounter targets the hunter. And then I ask the hunter to roll a hunting test, etc. The lookout, they're going to be rolling awareness as they're keeping out for danger and watches. And the scout is looking for new trails or places to camp, and they would be rolling explore. So with that in mind, all of you are going to take one of those positions. Where do we want to go with that?
So Arenia would like to go back to being guide.
You can do that.
Because Arenial has the cloak from Lady Ortolos, which helps with travel. Sorry, Tara.
No, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I was wondering if I could do awareness, because that is the highest thing I have out of these.
Okay. Gilly, you cool with that?
Lookout.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So there's also see if I can get this shared. There's also with Foundry, they have a pretty cool sheet. So Maitre, if you go into the players folder on the actors directory,
right?
Like where there's a company player. If you want to open that up, you can kind of see like the journeys here.
Got it.
Well, Gilly, the Rangers are taking our jobs.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
No, I can roll something else, dude. It's totally fun. This just
Melissa, you might want to be hunting if we want food, because between Floy and I.
Oh, I can do any of these. It's just, do you prefer the hunting or the scout?
I'll probably scout. We're so fucked. This.
Perfect.
then
I'm the best hunter in this
why not I do one of the other two then? Like honestly, it was.
You're locked.
Oh, please. You're a ranger. You know these lands better than me. Like, I've seen a radio hunt here and there. It's not that hard.
I am here for seeing how this goes.
We can totally find where we're going, guys. Like, explore. So good.
We just got food, so even
that's
if
true. That's true.
we can manage off of those kind of apples and dried meats for a little bit there. Not that I don't have confidence, Floy, in your hunting skills, of course, but Floy, maybe you come back with a fistful of berries. Who knows?
Can you, for audience, tell us how many pips you have in hunting?
Yeah, I don't even see it on my sheets. 0.
I cannot wait. Oh, I cannot wait for this. Okay. This is more like it. This is more like it. Okay. All right. So roles are set. Route is determined. We will say after that kind of morning breakfast with good old Titus, he bids you all farewell. You'd start journeying out of the city. You pass by the Red Palace one more time. Maybe Tharnau is there, waving at you from between the statues of Elendil and Isildur one last time. The sun comes up to the east over the misty mountains. You pass by the actual guardhouse and begin to descend down the causeway. You venture out and away and eastward through some of the farmlands that are nearby. Maybe seeing in the distance the turkey farm that you all had such an interesting encounter with when you first arrived. You see some animals that are kind of scattering around, hiding underneath some of the causeway areas. You see some folk who are maybe more nefarious, kind of hiding out as well. You find the river once more, and you begin your travel. So, Erennial, if you could please roll the travel test as we're going to get started here.
All right. I probably should have had my dice ready for that. All right. So travel. And then I've got 1, 2, and then an extra for. Well, that's a face.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the random encounter I just rolled.
Sure. I'm gonna save some of these audience bits for other people who aren't rolling 3d6s.
That's so very kind of you.
Hey, well, brand new dice rolled a candy first roll, so that is off to a fantastic start.
What does it look like, though? What does it look like? What does the candy look
Yeah,
like?
can you Vanna
Gotta
wave
hold
this
that
first,
up.
please?
Does it say Lolly on it? There
look
it
does.
is.
at
Thank you.
that.
Thank you, North Foundry. Those things are awesome. I love them so much. Okay, so that's a success. Any
Yes,
bonus
and no
successes?
extra 6s.
Okay, so you can go ahead. So whoever wants to do this, you can begin moving it up to sort of like the first bend in the river as essentially you're traveling a couple days. So over these couple of days, as you're traveling up the river, the winter is still a ways off, but autumn is most certainly here. There aren't a ton of trees along the river, but there's a periodic copses and such here and there, and you can see that the leaves have started to change color. You see some have started to drift down. When you look at the river nearby, you can see chunks and chunks of leaves and branches that have kind of fallen off, beginning to clog some of the water here and there. And it's already brackish to begin with, but it's getting even worse. You can see that there's a wind coming from the north as well at night. That's kind of giving you some chills. Campfires help, blankets help. It's not to the point where anyone is in danger, but you can definitely feel the change. You've been here for roughly, a fortnight or so, and even in that time, when you first arrived, it was dry and it was hot, and 2 weeks later, you can tell that the weather has steadily changed. At a certain point, we'll say it was probably the third night, you notice that the provisions that you got from Titus have already started to dry up. Whether it's kind of forgetting them here or there, or whether it's just kind of overindulging because the food is so delicious, the ale as well. And Floy, you realize it's time for you to kind of get out there as Erennial is taking a break from sort of leading the journey. You can see her and Tara are kind of discussing the path ahead. Gilly setting up the camp with Daggett probably in hand. Floy, you take it upon yourself to go hunting. The reason I was gritting is because the hunter was the first random one that popped up. So go ahead and roll a hunting test.
I feel so bad, guys. I'm sorry.
Don't feel bad. This is fantastic.
This is
This is good entertainment for me, at
We
least.
do have audience bits that we got if you want some actual D6s to use in that roll.
Yeah,
Can I
do
give
have-
you a hope because I am making you do this?
No, it's okay. You stay here. You've worked all day. Let me do my job. I'll spend one of my hope. And only my hope. Oh, that's pretty good. A Sauron.
Oh dear.
I'm hunting Sauron.
Okay, so is that... I'm assuming that's a fail, obviously. Okay, all right. So, Floy, you head off hunting. It for some reason, you're a dwarf. For some reason, it didn't occur to you that there was a river nearby, and perhaps fishing for some of those eels, which you knew were there aplenty. Maybe you wanted some other kind of meat. But it's been a few days, and you're nowhere near the farmlands anymore that were dotted around Tharbad's outskirts. And so you kind of head off into the pastures and plains, these rolling hills. Nothing's too steep or too difficult to traverse. And you realize you just spent hour after hour, like to the point where the sun goes down, and maybe it's just pride, maybe it's frustration, maybe you just lose sight of things, or maybe it's overconfidence, whatever it might be. You find yourself getting lost at a certain point. And by the time you look up, the sun has gone down in the west over the Blue Mountains. There's barely any light as dusk is already starting to end, and night is beginning to fall in its entirety. It's at that point where, let's say it's a deer that you've been, this sort of foal that you've been chasing. You kind of see it in the distance with the last little glimmer of dusk suddenly reflecting off this crystal clear pool of water. And that deer its head is down, it's not paying attention to you, despite the crunch, crunch, crunch of your heavy dwarven footsteps. And it is sipping away at this pool. You can see that the pool is surrounded by flowers that, as the sun continues to dissipate, the flowers almost radiate themselves their own kind of light. You're not sure if it's just reflecting it or maybe it's a trick of the eye, whatever it might be. They almost feel like they are glowing themselves. And so, do you have a ranged weapon?
No, I no longer carry ranged.
Okay. So you failed. So how does this, as you go to try and hack through this kill, how does it go wrong? Like, what does it look like as Floyd tries to sneak up and get this thing, and how does it not work for you?
Just like any other hunter battle I go into, I charge in yelling wildly.
And as you charge in, you go to swing, and this thing, more nimble than any orc or goblin you have fought, just prances away, like with such ease that you go tumbling forward, disturbing this beautiful array of flowers, and falling into that near perfect clear pool. And you can see splashing and ripples begin to kind of cascade around. And as you're getting up, drying yourself off, sort of wringing out your beard, you see that something begins to emerge from the center of the pool. It has a vague shape, looks very much human-like, but where normally hair would be kind of cascading down on shoulders, you instead just see water kind of flowing down here and there. You don't really have a very clear, distinguishable face, but you can tell just by looking at whatever is there, you're feeling this sense of anger at the disruption that you have caused this beautiful place. You see this trampled bit of flowers, and you see this disturbed pool, and in the distance, the deer is getting away scot-free. And then they say something. And you're not sure because it doesn't sound like Western. It doesn't sound like the language that you use regularly. It doesn't sound like Dwarvish either. Vaguely, maybe, like Sindarin, maybe, like some sort of form of Elvish. I need you to make a courtesy test. Ill-favored. As this thing begins to slowly creep towards you, and as you look down, you can see that beneath the water, these sort of underwater vegetation just begin to wrap itself around your ankles.
Is it possible to use my Twilight Ruby in this situation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. So this will give me 2d6 on my courtesy. Ill favored. 6. 15 is still a fail.
So, as you try as best you can in whatever languages that Floy vaguely understands, you think back to your time traveling with Sorendir, whatever basic elvish phrases that you could. Maybe you say them incorrectly, maybe you put the cadence in the wrong place, but you feel yourself suddenly dragged with the quickness of this deer that pranced away beneath the surface. And as has happened to Floy a few times throughout the campaign, you feel the water rush into your mouth and you're drowning. What would you like to do?
Oh, I'm just trying to wrestle myself, to free myself as best as I can.
Okay. Go ahead and what skill do you want to roll in this case?
I've got athletics.
Okay. Anything you roll is going to be ill-favored.
Ill-favored, okay.
Yeah. That's that. I'm cashing in that Sauron. I'm leaning into this a little heavier than I should have been.
Is this another lollygagger that's trying to swim out of danger?
Yeah, it never
Is
works.
this-
Don't
Look
look at
out, but ill-favored gives
You can
me
do
a
this.
regular success.
Okay. So you're able to, as you're getting pulled under, you have maybe these brief visions of the nameless thing in the murky waters below the Rudauer Keep, or the strange images that you saw when you were going through the cleansing ritual near Forlon. All of this starts cycling through, and you're just kind of hacking away as best you can with Kobar's cleaver. And finally, you feel yourself come free from whatever physical roots, whatever physical vegetation managed to get on you. And you start scrambling out of the water, kind of going back over the trampled, illuminated flowers and kind of making a run for it. And when you turn back, you can see that whatever spirit this was is still there, but it seems like kind of lurking along the edge of the pool, barely creeping out onto the illuminated flowers. And you watch as it just with this long arm just begin to almost like this sort of backhanded spritz of water begins to try to replenish those trampled flowers. But it doesn't chase you as you begin to work your way beyond this area as best you can and as quickly as you can. You do, however, take 2 shadow points for this, as the memories of a very dangerous series of moments in your life have begun to. I'm sorry. You actually can roll dread for this. My bad. You can roll dread to resist this.
Okay.
The rest of you, it becomes clear after a time that Floyd's not there, and I'll say that most of you spend your time searching around, calling out, etc. And what this ultimately means is that all of you suffer 2 fatigue.
Got a 20 regular success.
Okay, so you don't take any shadow as you succeeded, but you do take the 2 fatigue as the extra time to hunt you down at night, the extra time to sort of recover from your drowning experience has left you in a bit of a state. By the time you meet everybody, it's well past midnight, so to speak. All of you can see that he is drenched. You can see little partially illuminated petals are kind of still tucked away in some of his beard, some of his hair, as he eventually returns to the camp, empty-handed, with no food from an unsuccessful hunt.
Floyd, what happened?
Well, if you see these flowers here, it wasn't my fairy wife this time. I wrestled with a water spirit of sorts. It must have disturbed its peace.
Told you to take the fishing net. It would make things so much easier.
Yeah, but I'm not much of a fisher. I chased after a deer.
Was that how did you try to tackle a deer? Is that how you tried to do
Well, of course.
this?
My axe here is the only thing I got. I thought as it went for a drink, none the wiser.
I'm so glad that food of Titus's was delicious, because that might be the last thing we eat for a little while.
I will try to hunt next time. I'm sorry I was too focused on our maps to assist.
Don't worry, I'll get something another day.
So you spend the night resting, recuperating. You have a few. Eventually, those petals, the illumination, especially as the sun comes up and the moon and stars fade, the campfire goes down to mere embers. You can see that in the morning, they too have become just normal, slowly withering petals. And you begin your journey once more. So, Aurenial, if you could make another travel test, please.
Yes, I will do that.
So that was the night of the third day of travel. Somewhere along the first day of travel, you pass by those broken stone statues of former princes and princesses and queens of Cardalin, where you had battled the Nazgul. You also remember that the Nazgul escaped by going upriver, in fact, as well. But you have not yet seen any sign of that ashen gray ship or its sails. It has been, at this point, about a week and a half since that battle.
Regular success.
Okay. This time, I'm going to need the scout. So I think is that Gilly this time? I think Gilly's in the scout position.
Sounds right.
Go ahead and roll an explore test. And whoever is controlling this can put yourselves, you can put the company token about a full space to the left of the H of Horwell there. A little bit further. Perfect. There you go.
16 regular success, Jeff.
Okay. So in the night, Gilly, actually not even during the night, during the day, in fact, as you're kind of looking for new paths, you can see that in the distance, a forest begins you can see like the scattered trees become thicker and thicker the further northeastward you go. And you know at a certain point you all have planned, based on Tara's advice, to stay away from the thickness of the forest themselves. Although it's very close to the angle, there are still creatures of shadow. There are still trolls that periodically come down from the troll shells to the north. So you're trying to, just for the sake of ease of travel, skirt along before the heavy forests come. However, you do find something fairly interesting in a place, as you're looking around for a place to camp, in fact, Gilly. You do notice that there is something that kind of catches your eye. You think it might actually make your travel a little easier, a little bit of a shortcut. As you find this like series of hills just west of the Horwell itself, where the bend in the Grey Flood becomes almost horizontally east for a bit. But just west of it, you see this series of hills. And as you all are traveling over, you're seeing this red clay begin to cake on your boots. And beneath some of the greener brown vegetation, there's clay almost everywhere. And you find what looks like the remnants of maybe a settlement at some point. Nothing recent, but certainly, not an age ago, but maybe within the Third Age, for instance. But you can see the remains of what looks like a ruined workshop, Gilly. It's overrun with like vines and ivy. You can even see that there's all these forgotten tools and devices that have been set up here and there. Maybe your scholarly mind maybe thinks this could have been a village of Cardalin, as that is the time in which, that's the place in which you're at, kind of traveling through here.
Mm-hmm.
And during the day, it's a very interesting kind of search as you're weaving through it. You find the remnants of roads, in fact, that kind of make some of the passageways, it makes some of the travel a little bit lighter on your feet, so you're not kind of sinking and slipping on some of the clay in the rain. It's at night, however, Gilly, where something very interesting happens, and all of you are able to witness this as well. As you're sleeping or as you're eating around the campfire, you suddenly hear the sound, very familiar to Floy and Daggett. Ting, ting, ting. The sound of a blacksmith's hammer onto an anvil. You hear the sound of wood being hewn, being planed at a mill. And as you get a little closer, as you kind of inspect the sound a bit, you look down one of these hills towards one of where this circle of old workshops, mill, blacksmith, leather worker. You see that it's almost as if this place has come alive. And you see these people just moving about, going from one workshop to another in the dead of night, working on something, going about their business, trading. You see them crafting coats of armor, clothes, weapons, tools. All of this is happening right now. What do you want to do with that?
Gilly's gonna go down and check it out.
Okay. And you're welcome to invite other people. So this is not a requirement for you to be on your own.
I'd love to join you if you don't mind the company.
Oh yeah.
So, Gilly, Tara, you go down, and as your feet begin to sort of flatten out, as you come down the decline, you sort of are camping atop of a hill, and you go down this decline, you almost feel it flatten out, and you can kind of feel the sense that you're in some kind of square. Like, Gilly, it's not too dissimilar from going to Coombe or going to Archet near the Bree lands. Not Bree itself, but one of those smaller satellite villages where there's a handful of these tightly knit communities where people come to trade or people come to work, or they share tools and they share focus, or they barter for services and for various projects. And you can see that, at least for the night, cobblestones almost seem visible beneath the earth. And you hear the sounds of conversations just wisping through the air. There's this slight fog that begins to erupt. The conversations, as the two of you listen, are very mundane. Not all of them are perfectly like you can't understand them all the time. They kind of weave in and weave out this sudden crescendo of noise, and then a sharp decrescendo as you listen, as they pass by you. They don't seem to pay attention to you at all, but they're talking about this work or that work. Both of you can make a lore test. Tara, I'm going to give you favored on this as well.
So I'm already favored on lore. Does that
take a bonus
add
die
anything?
then instead? No, just take a bonus die instead.
Okay.
Just a regular success.
Okay.
I'm rolling low tonight.
Still don't quite know how to like verbalize what I'm getting, so I'm sorry about that. But out of my 46s, I got 3 6s and a 10 on my D12.
Okay, that's going to be what we call an extraordinary success, because you're going to meet your target. You're going to exceed your target number, but you have 3 successes on top of it, so you do phenomenally well.
Sweet.
So, Gilly, you would certainly recognize. So I'll start with you. You would certainly recognize some conversation and some references to locations that you might have heard about or seen within Oswald Breaker's notes. As you know, that Oswald Breaker has, as part of his sort of life's work now that his wife has passed, has been working on documenting the history of Arnor and its successor kingdoms. And part of that has been trying to map out the territory. Like where were Cardolin? Where were their lands? Where did Rudour's lands? Where did they fight over this and that? And you can see that you're hearing references to different places that align with the Cardolin successor kingdom. Like you can hear like different spots, watchtowers, references to having to hurry and make this or that as you're supposed to deliver to this barracks, or there's this watchtower that needs reinforcements of helms or swords. There's talk about that. Tara, you get even more as you hear references to specific princes. You hear references not only to that, but to the encroachment of Angmar as the forces of Angmar started to drift south. You hear discussions that kind of waft in and out of Root Hour and how they've betrayed us. They've betrayed everything we've stood for, and how you're getting this basic sense that Cardalin is trying so hard to marshal itself to war. But you also hear coughing, wheezing, and more than once when Gilly's not looking, you see one of these people, spirits, whatever you want to call them, kind of collapse to the ground, almost as if like they're hacking something up. And you get this sense that there's some sort of illness that's kind of cascading through this village. You even see people fall and die, and they just lay there on the ground. You see other moments where somebody is pushing a cart through a village, and you see the sadness of homes being brought, people coming out of their homes and kind of bringing another body and putting it into the cart of someone collecting the dead. And you just kind of watch this whole arc of the rise, the desperation, and the fall of whatever village this might have been as they struggle to reinforce the prince's edicts, but seem to waste away at whatever illness courses through them.
I'm just reaching down and holding Gilly's hand, and Gilly, you feel this like squeeze as Tara just sort of stiffens next to you for a moment. And we'll sort of say very quietly, this was an entire village that was taken by the shadow. And a sickness.
Yeah. And Gilly goes quiet because she did have her like journal out, and she was just kind of like sketching the ghostly like apparitions that she was witnessing, like this dead village. And she just kind of stops and she turns to you and she looks at you and she's, this is what we're fighting to prevent. I don't want this to happen to Bree.
Or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So together, as you kind of share what you're witnessing, as you're witnessing some different things at times, the two of you as your history, your lore, you know that during the middle years of the Third Age, during the sort of the before or during the height of the war with Angmar, there was a plague that actually spread through the land, not just here, but eastward into Ravanian, Gondor, etc., even to Rune, as there was this horrific plague that just hit the land in its entirety, and Cardalin was terribly, terribly hurt by it, and they were so weakened that as the forces of Angmar kind of swept down from the north, it made them just easier to overwhelm at that point. And it was one of the things that kind of helped soften the defenses.
Do we have any sense if the plague was related? Like, I don't know the Middle Earth term for bioweapon, but that's what I'm trying to ask.
I would say you probably don't know, but I would say there's probably some who might have suspected that it might have been a tool. Whether or not they have proof of that is an entirely different thing.
Sure.
But there also was a very, very cold winter in which it kind of spread even further. So it's also possible it was just unfortunate timing. It's hard to be sure.
Right.
Now, the last thing you all see as the two of you are beginning to return is you watch as the workers kind of begin to fade, some of them just falling to the ground and fading away, others venturing deeper into darkness and no longer seen again. The two of you see like a pair of scouts. You can see them dressed in a certain kind of armor. These helmets that they wear are conical, but they have sort of red leather that is very noticeable. And you can see the two of them are moving through, bows on their backs, swords on their waists. You can see that on kind of emblazoned on their helms and on their chests. I would say both of you are able to recognize the symbol of a not unknown symbol of Cardolin. This red hill and this star, very common symbol for any of the kingdoms that descended from like Elendil, Isildur, etc. And it's their Cardolin sort of version of it. And you see them almost like checking places as they're realizing now this village, this workshop has sort of died out. At one point, one of them takes off their helm and sets it at what looks to be some kind of well in the middle of what would be the workers' square, and just rests it there. And as you're watching, it never picks it back up. And instead, the two of them, almost with heads bowed, begin to walk away. And then this whole scene fades. And all you see is once more the ruins of this place, no longer in its glory and no longer populated.
Gilly's gonna approach the well.
Okay.
Careful as well, and there's a very clear heaviness, I think, that's setting on both of them, or at least on Tara, that Gilly can certainly feel if she doesn't feel it herself.
So the two of you approach. The well was once made of stone and hewn brick. It has fallen into ruin at this point. Certain sides have crumbled. Some of it is still intact, overgrown a bit here and there with weeds and such. But there still is an opening that goes down. Gilly, I presume you have your lantern on you.
Yes, yeah.
Either one of you, or one of you can support the other. Can roll an awareness test or a scan test if you prefer.
I'm real good at awareness, but you go ahead, Gilly, and I'm happy to support.
Either way, I think we're the same, honestly.
You go ahead then, because you roll better than I do.
I am doing not so great tonight. That's a lot of ones. I did get 1-6 though, and I hit match 16. So
you hit your total. Okay, so
yeah.
So great success. Okay,
yeah,
all those ones. Despite all those ones.
yeah.
As you're holding the lantern over the opening to the well, you can tell that like there's certainly water below, but it's murky and slush. You know, you can. It looks as though like the clay of the hills has broken through and it's more like sludge. But you do see something metal below reflecting that lantern light. And I'll say with a great success, it does look not unlike that helm that you saw the one scout kind of take off in the vision. It's a ways down there, but you could potentially try to retrieve it if you like.
Yeah. Is your athletics better than mine, Tara? Or would she not fit? It might be me. I'm going to use my hook and my rope to secure it so I can use that to rappel down and reach and grab it.
I'll say with Tara there, with you using this item, this isn't necessarily something that's going to be too difficult. You've been through far, so I'm not going to require a roll. But with those ingredients, with Tara kind of holding on to the rope or assuring that the intact side of the well doesn't collapse under your weight, you're able to get down, and it's almost trapped underneath there. But with a sharp pull, you hear this sucking sound as you unplug. And almost like a drain, you watch as the sludge, that red clay sludge, begins to swirl. But you have in your hands one of those helms that has the symbol of the red hill and the star above it, emblazoned. You can see the leather. It's muddy, but it's actually in fairly good shape, considering how long it's probably been down here. It's possible it's been underneath the mud, and in doing so, that's kind of protected it in some way. But with some burnishing and some cleaning, this could in fact be usable.
Yeah. And Gilly will kind of hold it in her hands, and when she gets back up and she hands it to Taranis. And maybe you should have this to remind you of what we're fighting for.
I do not need a reminder, but I
Also, the
appreciate
protection. I do
token.
worry about you.
Don't know what you mean. And he takes it from you with a small smile.
And Gilly will just kind of like thoughtfully like look around and she'll flip through her book and she'll grab one of those pressed white flowers that she found from the graves ages ago, and she's just gonna leave that kind of at like the base of the well and kind of like remembrance before leaving to head back to our camp.
The two of you, if you need to, can restore 1 hope.
Thank you. I don't need to, but thank you. While we're walking back to camp, though, Tara is gonna lean over to Gilly and be like, "You don't think Titus is really gonna read that note that after third hour? Do you?
If you did
He really
specify
can't
him
read.
to read it,
No,
I did suggest he just takes it to Thurnow. So that's he said it was a good idea. So
okay.
did you say something in that note to Thurnow?
And Tara, it just turns a little red and looks away like, nothing that's worth discussing.
I've never been in a relation. Are you? Did you?
We sparred once. and she doesn't realize the innuendo, but
It also goes right over
being
Gilly's
very
head.
earnest about it.
That's so sweet. I've always wanted to hold hands myself, but and she's like, I have books I could, when we get back to Bree, that I could loan you.
Yes, please. And then I think that I would love for the conversation back to camp to just be slightly salacious talks about romance novels.
But it's like, yeah, but like the 20th chapter, they finally held hands and oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
So you eventually get back. Everyone's there. You sleep for the night. In the morning, when you wake, you do see that during the night, that kind of haze, that mist has faded, and you do see the remnants of a road. So effectively, you get a shortcut, which cuts a day off your journey. All of you will still gain 1 fatigue, as mechanically will resolve the effects of the journey. But 1 fatigue, which isn't so bad. And then I will
on top of the 2 we took before.
Yeah, so basically every event that happens gives a certain number of fatigue.
Okay.
And then I will need Iriniel to go ahead and make another travel roll to push forward.
All right.
I just want to let you know, Jeff, I have not made an awareness roll yet. I don't know if that's by design or just movie best.
It's random who it targets. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So far it's been a hunter and a scout for the encounters.
Fine.
Travel.
just
the travel is
wanted to
always rolled each time,
Got
but
it.
then who gets targeted for the event is random.
Got it. Thank you.
That is a great success with 1-6.
Okay. Go ahead and you can move basically all the way up to the L in the last L. There you go. That's fine. Okay. So let me see. So the next couple of days, whoops, that's the wrong button. Speak of the devil, Taranith, go ahead and roll an awareness test, as this one's going to target the lookout.
Spoke too soon.
You wanted it.
I know. I'm such a yeah. I got a 12. That's a Gandhi, right?
Yay.
Okay, and
Nice.
also 1-6.
Okay, so it's a great success. Fantastic. So you've been traveling for the last few days. The shortcut probably only lasted maybe a day, where you saw the remnants of some old path that likely connected a few villages. Nothing too grandiose as like the Great East Road or anything like that. And you can see some of the contours of ruins far to the west, on the hills and such that roll during the day. At night, you don't really see them. And it's kind of there's a weight of this travel. As you know, you're traveling through not ugly lands. It's actually quite beautiful, but desolate, knowing that there once was sort of a kingdom here of some kind, the Cardolan successors. At a certain point, though, as you're looking around, Terra, trying to assess for danger, as you know you're getting near the forests on the western edge of the Horwell, where it's not entirely uncommon to run into a stray troll, stone troll, that might be lurking, or even a handful of goblins or something. You do, in fact, open up onto this beautiful meadow, and you can see there are a kind of a preponderance of animals, in fact, as you see rabbits, these large rabbits, deer, kind of moving around in groups of 4 and 5. You even see foxes shifting around here and there, bees flying through the air. You hear the buzz, and you can see that they all seem to be congregating towards the middle of this beautiful meadow. And you notice, Terraneth, that there is what looks very much like this kind of golden leaf tree. And at the base of it, you see a figure that seems to be interacting with some of these animals here and there, but also seems to be performing or gesticulating in some way, perhaps a ritual, perhaps a prayer, something. They are dressed at this distance with your great success in no manner of civilized clothing, as you see nothing but patches of furs and leaf coverings. It is quite unkempt. The very whatever it is that they're kind of wearing, and you hear vague shouts kind of popping from there. But all these animals are kind of lurking and congregating in the area and don't seem to have any real concern about this figure who stands at the sort of the middle of this pasture, this meadow.
I'm gonna kind of try to sneak closer and get a better look.
Okay.
I'd like to understand if they are doing something as a group. I want to know what that is.
Okay, so if you want to sneak up undetected, go ahead and roll a stealth test. And this one's going to, I'm not going to tell you the difficulty of this one, so just roll, because this one's going to be contested, sort of.
Sorry, I just need to... There we go.
So the better you do, the better you roll, obviously, the more likely this is going to succeed.
Sure.
And I'll say the rest of you can be, so Tara can point this out to the rest of you as well, so you're aware of what's happening.
I got a Gandalf, but no, and a 20 total. So.
Okay, got a Gandalf.
Yeah.
You get very close. You don't get too close. The meadow in many places seems to have very high grass, high flowers. You can see these sort of sunflowers and wildflowers that are creating this beautiful array. There's only that lone kind of golden leaf tree, and occasionally there's a couple saplings here and there that don't seem to have fully grown yet. But when you get close, you definitely hear a voice, and it's an older man's voice, and it's very rough, and it sounds pitchy and throaty, like somebody with a terrible sore throat or something like that. But at many times it seems like they are talking either to the animals or to the tree or to something that's not there. It's very peculiar. Periodically, you'll see like one of the animals come up very close, and they'll reach in.
Oh, hungry are you? Here, I've got a nibble one. Here. No, just the one of you, not both. Careful, I've got one for you. Patience, little one, patience.
And kind of reaches in and grabs like something. They're sort of feeding these two red foxes that come up and almost fight over whatever it is that this figure is handing. You can see at this distance, this gnarled hand, liver spotted, definitely someone of age. And you can see what looks like a beard, this horribly unkept beard with various pieces of leather and twigs that are inside. that are kind of protruding out from this, what you've now realized isn't in fact a cowl, but is instead just terribly kempt hair that seems to be matted down with twigs and leaves kind of sticking out of it. But they do not seem to have noticed your approach.
Okay, Tara's keeping it together in a way that my three is not. Tara is going to I think I want to just sort of keep it. I want to get up closer and talk to this man, but not startle him in the process. So would it be better to sort of announce where I am right now, or you know what? I'm going to announce where I am right now, so I don't startle him, just with a slightly gentle throat clear.
So as you do so, and you see they turn around.
Put both my hands up immediately.
from where you can see the golden, which you thought were golden leaves on the tree. In fact, half of them seem to be birds with this sort of this feathering that almost looks perfectly stealth or perfectly camouflage. They just burst from the tree. And now suddenly the tree looks far more barren than a moment ago. They turn around and look at you, and you can see their face, again, liver spotted, covered in grime, green and browns, little whites here and there.
Oh, who's there? Oh, sneaks up.
I am Tareth. I am a warden of the north, and I bear you no ill will.
Warden of the north? Of what north? What are you at north? How can you be warden of a cardinal direction?
North of here. Just north of here.
If you're warden of north of here, then why are you here? You should be north of here wardening.
I intend on going north of here. It is my travels that have made my path cross with yours, and I am astounded to see somebody so in tune with the world in a time of such growing darkness.
Growing darkness? It is the light of day. It is not midday. The sun is not yet overhead. What are you talking about, young girl?
May I approach?
Well, you've already scared my friends away, so I suppose you may come closer.
And she does.
You can see as you get close, like one of his eyes is huge and bulging. The other one's kind of squinting here and there. But as you get closer, you realize it's squinting because there's some sort of crusted, you're not sure if it's some eye crust or bird crap or something, just sort of keeping it.
Let me get a look at you. No, I don't know you. Stay away from my friends.
And he kind of points down to these two foxes that are now kind of playing with each other, kind of wrestling. As you took a few steps, they stopped, almost like this little high-pitched growl emits from them. But as you get a little closer, and they went back to wrestling.
Okay.
Gilly peeks out, and at this point, she kind of catches up with you, and she's like, Tara, are you talking to the trees? And because she hasn't noticed him yet.
There's another. Thieves.
This is my friend and traveling companion, Gilly Kettlegrass. If there is anyone that is connected to nature the way you are, sir, it is her.
Connected to what?
Nice to meet you, sir. I'm Gilly. What's your name?
I have many. I don't know if I want to give it to you yet.
Okay. And Gilly just kind of looks at Tara like, what do we stumble upon?
What are Floy and Aurinial doing in all this? I'll say you're in the meadow too, but unless you tell me you're approaching, you haven't yet approached.
If it's safe to continue on, I'll just bring up the horses in the rear.
A dwarf, a straw, and a warden of somewhere north of here. And you, lady, another dwarf, horses, pony. What are you?
As he kind of squints at Auriniel at this point.
Yes, nice to make your acquaintance.
Is it? Maybe. Oh, quiet now.
As like you can see one of the foxes is now at his, kind of like scratching away.
I've already fed you for the day. Stop it. Stop being so selfish. Why are you here? Well. Oh, what a strange company. 2 dwarves, a store, a warden of somewhere north of here, and another lady who does not want to speak much.
I am, like my friend, also a ranger of the north.
A ranger of the north. Is that what you call yourselves these days? I thought you had that air about you. Yes, I can smell nobility on you. It's a far cry, but yes. I suppose I could see it. A bit in the chin, the cheekbones, and in the smell as well. Yes, I know what I said. I said it was in the smell. Now quit your whining.
As he continues to like speak to this like these pair of foxes, these rabbits that have kind of, and the rabbits and foxes are like doing nothing against each other.
Do you know our people?
Do I know you? Of course. I know them better than you, perhaps.
That is likely. Neither Reniel nor I have been with the Dunedin for some time.
I don't pretend to know them intimately. Gandalf was always the one who enjoyed people. I preferred animals. Nature, they are far less complicated and they are much nicer. Except for these two. Quit your fighting. We have guests now. You're embarrassing me.
Speak of Gandalf, do you know him?
Yes. Do you?
I've only heard stories.
Stories that I'm sure he is embellished here and there.
We were supposed to meet him at one point in time, but our adventures took us elsewhere.
Such is the way of Gandalf. He arrives exactly when he means to, which could be early, which could be late, or never at all. Very rarely will you find him when you want to find him, but he will always find you when he needs to.
What are your friends' names?
You couldn't pronounce it. They are not easy on the tongue, you see. And besides, they don't have any real need for names. It is only my way of distinguishing them. This one is terrible, and that one is slightly less terrible.
Oh.
We still do not know your name, sir.
I am
Ternath.
Ternath, who shall be wardening further to north. And the rest of you?
I am Auriniel, daughter of Moriel.
Auriniel, daughter of Moriel. Do I know Moriel? I don't know Moriel, sorry. Never had the courtesy or the opportunity. And the rest of you?
I'm just a dwarf.
Just a dwarf? Dwarves have names as well.
Floy, if you wish to know.
And Ternath just fly.
Floyd? No father to follow? You are a peculiar dwarf. So obsessed they are with naming their father, or that father, or this father, or that father, over and over and over again.
I just didn't feel like a wild man out in the forest would matter.
Wild man? Wild man?
You're the first person we've seen in days out naked in the forest. What are you even doing here?
Naked, sir. I have.
And you look and he has clothes like these like underneath all of the various like debris, the leaves, the twigs, you can see there's like a brown robe sort of in there. You're not sure if it's brown because it's specifically colored brown or if it's just been sort of muddied in
Muddied
that
up.
manner. Yeah.
And I am none is. This one though is, and that one is, and these four over here. Should we chastise them for improper courtesy? You should really put some pants on, terrible one. And you should put on a shirt. Our dwarf friend, Floy with no father, is quite offended.
And Gilly's like, and again, I'm Gilly Kettlegrass of Bree.
Of Bree? You're not a... Yes, I suppose. Hobbit?
Yes,
Not
I'm
my-
a Bree Hobbit.
Not my area of expertise. Yeah, once more. Gandalf with his leaf in your peel, I suppose. Fine, I am Radagast. Yeah.
Nice.
Though I
nice
imagine
to
that
meet you.
means nothing to you all, which is just fine and good for me.
No, I definitely have no idea who Radagast is. And I'm having a very normal reaction to this.
I'm called other things as well, but I doubt you'll know them, and I doubt you're even capable of pronouncing them, so there's no reason to get too excited about these. I'm a bit out of my normal neighborhood here, but I heard a terrible story, but this is not important. Never mind. You all have a stench about you, or you don't seem like very happy people.
We've had our struggles, our trials, tribulations.
And as to follow on to what Ms. Kirla said, it is part of our duty, Reniel and I at least, to encounter these troubles and do with them the best we can. So, and our people have always been taught that that is what we must do. So I must ask, Miss Radagast, how it is you even know.
Too long to explain. I know things. We all know things. It's not worth explaining, but I can just see it. Like a stench around you. An extra sense. How do the animals know when danger is near? How does this terrible one know when I have sprained my ankle and I need more comfort? It's just an instinct, I suppose.
So you live out here then, you're not lost.
No, I don't live here. I'm on a bit of a journey myself. I heard something terrible has befallen a dear friend of mine, well, friends out here, and I wanted to pay my respects. Now that I have done so, I will return east.
Oh, what's happened?
They have passed, you see.
That's terrible to hear. Who passed?
Oh, several friends. This terrible one's mother, and that terrible one's father, and a dozen more very similar to them.
Is it their time?
Of course, it is everyone time at some point. Others have longer time. Others have shorter time. This dwarf here is probably going to outlast all of you. Well, perhaps you wardens with your blood. Hobbit, you probably will be the first to go, but I will likely outlast all. That's fine. But terrible one, nary 10 years, 15. And that one over there, the rabbit, far fewer. All you really must do is decide what to do with the time you are given, yes?
That's very, very true. Are you saying even in your, I say this respectfully, sir, but even in your advanced age, you are nowhere near the end of your life. I asked because Radagast is not a name I'm familiar with, or people, and she kind of looks so intelligent, like, and I don't believe I know your people.
You have not heard of me.
And Tara, if you want to roll, you can roll a lore test.
I would love to roll.
Absolutely. I'll give it to either of the rangers. I would say are the ones. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Gilly would have it, nor would I think Oswald have had it necessarily. But I'll give it to the rangers.
21 with 2 successes.
Okay, Ireniel, how'd you do?
Ireniel, I think, rightfully failed.
Tara, you've never met them before, but it makes sense. You've spent time in the Angle at this Ranger Haven. You have spoken with very wizened rangers and elves that have come down from Rivendell or come over from Rivendell as well. The name Radagast is certainly not unfamiliar to you. And you know a contemporary of Gandalf the Grey, a wizard of some, and Radagast the Brown as well.
I'd like to change what I said then.
Of course.
In that case. Thank you. So instead of saying that that's not a name I'm familiar with, once he sort of started what age and that kind of thing, like I am not familiar with wizards and wizardry, but I imagine that your words must be wise, because even in your advanced age, you must not be near the end of your life.
You want me to give you wise words? That's what you're asking of me?
You already have, but I think you'd be foolish not to listen to anything else you have to say.
I'm hungry.
If you are who I believe you are.
You, little one, you can reach the berries over there easier than most. Fetch some. You dwarfs, over there, you can see on the edge of the forest there's a fruit tree. Sit, we will eat. I will talk. I will give the warden wisdom, I suppose. Then I will be off, for I have tasks to tend to, and I am sure you do as well.
We will share information with you as well.
I do not wish to have any. I have my own tasks to tend to, and I have very serious tasks indeed. And plus, it is very difficult to see. Maybe I am getting old after all. But quickly now, before the sun goes down. Oh no, we have quite some time for that, I suppose.
So he sits around, kind of looks a bit here and there. Do you all kind of go fetch the stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
Billy does, at least.
Yeah, I'll go whack some berries out of a tree.
Okay. Go whack some berries out of a tree. We'll say a little bit of time passes. You come back. You guys set up a little camp nearby this tree. Eventually, you can see these thrushes and these other birds kind of start coming back. Ones that seem safer. Never in as full of force as they were prior. Those two foxes continue to sort of nip at his ankles from time to time, and
stop it!
And then you can see rabbits as well. And he sits, and you can see him just start eating here and there. And he doesn't clean his hands, doesn't clean his face. It's all kind of a disgusting sort of passage of it.
He looks at you as that one. Yeah, I see something about you. Terranid. Ranger of the North. I am supposed to give you all words of wisdom. And it's been some time since I've had to give them, other than do not lick a wound, or do not play in that stream, or this or that. And I can tell you that there is you are shrouded. Yes, hard to see. mist, shadow, whatever, or something. How many paths that lay before you, Taranet? Ranger, the North Warden of some stretch of land to the north. How many paths? Answers will unfold for you if you choose to walk those paths. But peril will find you if you choose to run them. There, wisdom. Neat and tidy and given to you. Is this what you wanted?
I believe it was. And
Do you
she
understand
looks
the
like
lesson?
very bemused at this whole thing.
He's like, do you understand the lesson?
I'm not sure I do.
Patience. Patience is a virtue.
I've never been very good at patience.
Good at patience. It's a peculiar phrase. Good. Good.
You suddenly see him like kind of turn.
Did you hear that? Did you?
No.
Get out of there!
And he pulls back his hair and he like takes this tiny little bird.
You are not supposed to be doing that. You're not allowed in there. Get down. No. I was getting a bit of headache. I was wondering what that was. A peckering going on and on.
And Aurelial will sort of kind of approach a little bit, and she'll just say, if you wouldn't mind, and so she kind of takes a corner of her cloak and she sort of does the kind of like licking the
Mom
cloak
clean.
thing, which you
What are
just
you doing?
you seem to have
attacked.
just kind of wipe. Is that perhaps a little better? You
I
seem
can
like you were
see. Oh, I can see again. Oh, you are. I did not realize you were a healer. Oh, wonderful.
And then she just sort of backs away. There was sort of a lot of close
As you back
proximity.
away, he like puts both of these like gnarled old man hands, but a very firm grip on your shoulders. Like,
No, wait. Yes. Do you hear that? Listen.
and then he whispers in your ear a bit so that no one else can really hear. And he's like,
Do you hear the song? Do you hear it?
I don't currently know.
The sword. It will sing a song of your victory, but only if you listen, which you are clearly not doing.
as he starts to raise his voice really loud in your ear when he says that.
Not all whispers bring evil, foolish girl. Dead have very much to tell. They have seen things. You should listen. That is all. Do you understand the lesson? That one, patience. You listen.
I talk too much.
No. But you don't listen. Or you're listening to the wrong things.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm not sure what to do with my eye now. It's fluttering open.
Well, you
The whole
see what you
world
can
to
see.
I can see.
Indeed.
Oh, you're much younger than I thought, dwarf. Look at you. You're barely out of diapers. Look at it. Anyhow. Is that all? Have you gotten your wisdom? Is this enough? Does this suffice?
You know magics, correct?
No magics. What a peculiar phrase.
I
have talents.
Gandalf.
Yes, I do. He is nearby, I think. Ish. Sort of. Maybe. This way. Maybe. No, that way. Yes, that way. Not too close, but close.
Okay. Gilly kind of like briefly looks at Aurenial, and then she goes to her journal and she flips to the passages that she has of our time in Angmar with like the wall of faces and the seeds. And she's trying to figure out how to ask. We were tasked by Lady Artolos. The elves have issues with their memories, specifically those who went there to try and defeat this evil. Do you know how we could assist them with stopping that?
I have no idea.
It was worth a shot, I suppose. And Gilly will kind of dejectedly go sit down.
Knowledge, though, is it's good to ask for. It's good to search for. But even the cleverest mind can be frozen in grief and fear. Gilly Kettlegrass, are you frozen in fear or grief?
It's cracking, I think.
Ah, look at you. Look at you, stuttering. Belief is the spark. It's the spark even without certainty. Do you understand the lesson?
I will think on it.
Oh, goodness. This is why I tutor no one. Ugh. I am better with animals. People. Ugh. So difficult. So thick-headed. Ugh. Never understand anything. And what say you, dwarves? Am I supposed to give you a lesson either? Beard care, perhaps?
We were just passing by, but if you have something to share, I'd be happy to listen.
Come closer. I can't see you all the way over there.
I'll come a bit closer.
Oh, that's too close. A little further back.
One pace back.
Excellent. That's far better. Yeah.
He looks over at Gilly.
Magic. Ooh.
He kind of moves his hand around in a way.
Dwarves? Dwarves. Oh.
You can see his eyebrow raises like really, really high.
Huh. What an interesting weight you carry.
Interesting. Do you want to see? I'll show him some rings.
Yeah. How very glorious those treasures. Yes. Yes. I am sure whoever crafted them toiled. Great labor. Yes, yes. Somewhere beneath a mountain, perhaps, a forge or some such. Not far from here, there once were fiery forges in a wonderful time, but that was long ago, and not now. At least that is what I hear. But you, there is a weight over your heart. Yes. It seeks a different place. It seeks home. Be careful that your heart does not follow it. For it is not yours, but it. Do you understand the lesson?
No, not at all.
That's what I thought. Foolish all of them, aren't they? Yes, I know. Yes, you're terrible and you're somewhat terrible, but these are far worse than you. At least you understand my lessons. Yes, you can have more.
And he reaches in, he kind of breaks off like a little scrumble of something, drops it down.
Yeah. Foxes are far more intelligent than you. No offense. Or if you take some, fine. And you, dwarf? Ugh.
The other one. He kind of looks over at Daggett.
Oh, well. I believe you'll be the death of this group. Yes.
And he kind of steps over and he whispers something into Daggett's ear. See, Daggett's eyes kind of go wide. And he steps away.
But that is for you to hear. But I am just an old man. I am just in the meadow. So what say anything I say is worth anything more than what one of you believes or thinks? It's not how things work. Anyhow. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep.
And he falls down and rolls over on his side.
Well, safe journeys. We'll be on our way.
No, what was that?
Thank you.
Yes. And if you see Gandalf, give him my best.
And he rolls back over.
Aureliel's going to try to go up to sort of his little animal companions and see if she can like.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll. I mean, still a hunting test. I think that's the closest thing to animal handling, so we'll do that.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted, you could do a courtesy.
No, I will definitely take hunting if I have an option between those two. Math. Yeah, great success.
As you step closer, put your hand down or so, gently, kind of moving closer and closer. You can see one of them kind of leans back, terrible, starts to lean back a little bit, somewhat terrible, leans forward a little bit, kind of almost like a downward dog position. And then they kind of pounce, but they do so in almost in a playful way, and they start kind of nipping at your fingers and kind of licking here and there. They seem to very much enjoy your company.
I am trying to sleep. Enough of that racket.
And so then Iridial will just sort of kind of quietly do the like, and then she'll just kind of like
Okay.
back
So
up quietly.
Okay. So does anyone do we stay here for the night? Is that what we want to do?
it's dark.
If it's time to camp, yeah.
Okay.
Tara would like to share with the party who that was. And like I do not know much about them, but I believe that was Radagast, one of the great wizards and Gandalf's contemporary. Known to my people and known to me only through stories, but
And here we just stumbled across him.
I have been told he wanders the woods. I did not know which woods, and she sort of laughs like a little embarrassed.
He did say he was on an important quest. Task. I wonder if it's similar to ours with the darkness.
I wonder if he knows so much, if we might want to show him the Maker's Mark. I know we already asked him for wisdom, but perhaps we might ask for just a little more before we leave.
So in meta, this is not something Turneth can have an opinion on, so we'll happily help go. We can go again if he's still there.
So if you camp for the night, you rest, Renio, you spend some time with Terrible and Less Terrible. Morning comes, and Radagast is gone. Nowhere to be found. Terrible and Less Terrible are still nearby, along with many of the other animals here and there. You can see that the tree overhead has now almost fully kind of replenished all of the birds that had been perched there when you first arrived. So you all mechanically rolled Joyful Sight on the event, and since the awareness test was passed, all of you can regain 1 hope if you need to.
I do.
Right.
And you gain no fatigue. But I guess it's
Jeff,
gone.
before we move on, holy shit, man.
Right?
That was so
Nice.
great. What a great NPC. Like, even not being Radagast, that was such a great NPC.
I was
Yeah.
like, briefly like, holy shit, are we getting a new patron live right now? Like,
So I would do Radagast as a patron, except for the fact that he's predominantly not on the west side, like of the Misty
Yeah.
Mountains. He's more kind of a Mirkwood area, but I thought it'd be fun to pop him in here and there.
I like it. I
as-
dig it.
It was
Yeah.
delightful. Thank you for that.
So, at this point, I will need a travel roll from Aurenial as you continue your journey. And someone could move yourselves up a little bit further to like where that tree, that forest is kind of branching out. Now, he had a task to attend to. His friends had passed, see to their death. All right. Glad folks liked it. I really like Radagast. Radagast is cool. I definitely have thought about doing a Rune Blue Wizard campaign at some points, maybe in the future. No time soon in the future, though, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that isn't really explored too much. And so it leaves a lot of ground for stuff to do. So, okay, what do you got?
Fail.
A fail. Okay. All right. So I'm going to need a scout again. So Gilly, could you go ahead and give me a roll? And if someone could move the token probably about halfway to the next tree line from where it's at. Yeah, that's good. Right about there. But you don't get nearly as far this time around.
1-6, great success.
Okay, great success. All right. Okay. You've been traveling it's about been 2 days since Radagast in the tree in the middle of the meadow. And mostly you've seen trees starting to sort of wash out further westward from the river. These sort of branches that come out from time to time. Sometimes you go through them, sometimes you go around them, whatever kind of suits you in a certain time. But during one of these little moments where you have sort of like a niche in the forest as you're moving forward, you again are greeted with a very interesting looking meadow. This time you don't really see, there's no trees suddenly. It's just sort of this blank, very flat ground. And there are a sea of wildflowers, however, none of which are illuminated Floy. It's just your standard fare. However, Gilly, you do notice that they are arranged in fairly intricate patterns in a way that seems to belie natural growth. As you start to look around a bit more, you notice that there are these chunks of rock here and there that are sprouting up out of the ground, sometimes at the nexus of where this curl or curve of wildflowers weaves around. And as you're moving through, and all of you can do this together, you notice that that these are statues, not just rough rock. They're not statues in the sense that someone has shaped them and moved them here, but rather these likely were boulders or outcroppings that over time someone has carved and hewn some stone. Floy, I would say you and Daggett could tell immediately this is not of dwarven craft. Like there's a lack of that kind of utilitarian feel to it. The angles are softer than normal. And I would say that Aurenial and Terraneth, having just come from Tharbad, having seen the statues of Elendil and Isildur and the princes of Cardolan on the coast that had shattered into the river, these two don't seem to sort of follow in the traditions of humans. There's a softness to them. There's a roundness to them that looks somewhat peculiar, and it's very difficult for you all to sort of pin down where this is. Plus, it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. You're a few days, probably a pair of days south of the last bridge. You know that you're not too far away from the Great East Road, but you're probably a day west of the river as well. This is very much the middle of nowhere, and some suggest. But all around there are all these statues, and they're all of animals. You can see.
Given that this is somebody else's event, is it appropriate for me to make a lore test?
Yeah, anyone can do these. It's just the target. So the way I play it,
Okay.
we have more interesting encounters. It's not just sort of one-offs. So anyone is welcome to do it. I would say, I'm not sure if would I want a lore test here.
Does it look like a garden?
I would take a craft test, not a lore test.
I don't have anything craft, so I'm not going to bother.
Okay.
I'll do a craft test.
Yes,
Right,
go
as well.
ahead. And Gilly, I would say you asked the question, and it sort of does seem like the way things are organized here and there. It almost seems like these flowers. You don't see any vegetables. You don't see anything growing here that's to eat. But you do see wildflowers. You do see bees. So maybe there's some of that. But someone's harnessing honey from here. But you don't see any signs of it anywhere. Just like a vague look around with your awareness roll that you rolled. You don't see any signs of there being a home, a homestead. But it certainly looks like gardens in some way. How do we do on those craft tests, guys?
1 success.
Okay.
I feel like I need to take a picture of this so that everyone believes me. I rolled 2 lollies. So that's a Gandalf and a 6
Okay.
for a great success.
Hold it up to the screen.
Well, you should take a picture just because the dice are pretty.
The dice are badass.
Yeah.
Eric's still here. She got another one. This is where Melissa's cheating and lying about her die rolls. Come and they're a benefit because we get to see the lolly symbol on these dice even more. Okay, so Aurenial and Flo, you both succeeded on this. Gilly, did you roll? You don't
For
have to. I was just asking if you rolled before
I can.
resolve it. You don't have to. It's just
That's
wanted
a
to give you
fail
an
for
option.
me.
Okay. It's sort of interesting, actually, that Gilly, you struggle with this, as I would say Aurenial and Floy, maybe it's just Gilly's too close to the forest to see the trees, so to speak. But there's something about the lines and the artistry of these images. Everything, like the perspective of it, everything almost looks a little grander and taller. And I think the two of you've moved around some of the Hobbit areas of Bree, and you've passed through the Shire as well. Floy, your wife is there. It has kind of a similar artistic sentiment, or at least maybe not so much in design, but in process, to some things that you've seen hobbits produce. In fact, now this would be a very strange place to find them, this far east of not just Bree, but the Shire. But they do have that kind of feel, similar to what you've seen elsewhere throughout the Shire.
Well, this isn't Dwarven make. Close to hobbits, maybe.
Hobbits, you say? And like at that, Gilly gets a little bit closer to observe it. It's kind of organized how I would have done my garden.
Beautiful. Although I do not see a homestead anywhere around. This looks tended.
And Gilly would like to kind of like wander a little bit further to see if she sees anything else.
Okay. I'm going to take a scan test for this, as you're looking for something that your explorer test didn't necessarily reveal, something hidden, something like that. Anyone else who would like to make this, of course, can do it, or they can support, whatever you prefer.
I would love to support if I could.
So what? Just roll another d6.
Yeah. So Tara, if you're supporting, it's an expenditure of hope. Gilly, you
Okay.
go ahead and get a die for that as well.
Thank you for the 6.
Nice.
So great success.
Okay.
Amazing.
Gilly, it makes sense that you're the one who finds it, because you do find a small hole in the ground near this, at the far eastern side of this meadow where the trees begin to sprout. And it is very small. It is carved into what looks like the base of a very large tree, very old and gnarled tree. It's partially obscured, you think, almost intentionally by somebody who has effectively crafted like a door panel to cover this. But you do in fact find a small little hobbit hole on the far eastern edge of it. Now it's not particularly ornate, but everything around here is quite beautiful. I will say that in addition to the scan and whatever else you've rolled, there does seem as though the gardens haven't been recently tended. Like, you can tell if this was your garden, there's some pruning that probably needs to be done here and there. but it doesn't look like it's been left essentially untended for months or years, more like weeks.
Gilly is gonna follow proper Hobbit protocol of how to call on a friend.
What is that proper protocol?
You
there, Gilly?
know, I'm gonna
Yes.
it's a very intricate knock sequence that she does
Okay.
upon the door. So it's like a hobbit to hobbit. Like no one else would know this, but like
I thought we were gonna get like Arkansas Swee calls starting to come out.
no.
Kurt's hanging back, and kind of bopping to this oddly percussive beat.
Yeah. It sounds like a high school marching band all of a sudden just starts
No.
When does the bass
wafting through the
drop?
meadow.
This is good.
You go through the process. There is no response, either one that you would expect or one that you would not expect. There's no response whatsoever.
At this point, Gilly's just gonna like loudly announce, I'm gonna peek in here. I want to make sure nobody's in here injured. Your garden really could use some pruning. I'm a hobbit, and guys, I'll be right back.
Okay. So you look inside as you start to peer back that kind of that door, that camouflage door. Inside is very cramped.
Mhm.
There's room enough for a hobbit, but I mean, Floy and Daggett might be able to squeeze their way in, but it wouldn't be particularly comfortable. It's less like a home, like a proper home with roofs. It's definitely reinforced, but you kind of have to crawl in, and then you hop into like a pocket of earth.
Mhm.
And you can see all around, there's definitely evidence that somebody has lived here, not just camped here, but lived here. There's a sign of a kind of a sleeping, kind of a sleeping cot, kind of crafted from what looks like twigs and woods, and some things that have been sort of stuffed with maybe the feathers of birds and some other grass and things. There definitely appears to be a couple pots and pans that have been set up. You can see that all along the walls in here, which are largely just caked earth in most places, you can see that there's like strings of like these little, I would say, branches or little pikes have been sort of stabbed into the walls, and there has been these strings that are connecting them, and they have been threaded through what looks like the flowers from the garden outside. Now, you can tell that they have withered at this point, but they still bear a little bit of color. But it's creating this very beautiful string of flowers in the room. You don't see anyone in here, however. There is what looks like a rough homemade footlocker, not necessarily by a particularly great woodworker, but there does appear to be a footlocker of some kind. And when you peek into it, it does appear to be empty. You don't see any signs of clothing or anything like that. But likely someone had been staying here. And maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't, but this does appear to be someone's home. Maybe they've gone for a journey and haven't returned. Maybe something befell them, who knows. But they're not here now.
If they're not here, Gilly will just leave their home and just tell the group, well, they did have a home here. Someone lived here, but they left. When I was in there, it didn't
looked like they were in trouble.
That was my second. When I was inside, did it look like they left in like a hurry, or like it was in a conflict, or was it more?
I'll roll over your scan. You did well on your scan test. There's no signs of blood. There's no signs of anything being disheveled. Everything's neat and orderly. The pots and pans are stacked up on a table in order. You can see that the bed has been made with some blanket of some kind. No, whoever left, they left in an orderly fashion. They just don't happen to be here right now, it appears.
Yeah. Well, it's a little disappointing. It would have been nice to have met a hobbit all the way out here, but, well, appears they're on their own adventure, maybe.
I wasn't aware that your people travel so far.
Well, generally they don't. I'm a bit of an anomaly. my parents would rather prefer I stayed home, but you know, I am their favorite daughter.
Do you, even if you are not kin by blood, do you want to stay and make sure things might?
Oh,
And-
hobbits are very capable. I'm sure that they'll be back shortly.
Would you want to wait for them? Or should we move on?
Well, I'll leave it up to you all if you'd like to stay a night and rest here, and perhaps it is a nice area.
Tara had looked in and decided that she probably couldn't get it and waited outside. It's like,
It would be a tight squeeze for you and Renewal. You probably could both like army crawl in there, but you wouldn't be able to stand up. Yeah.
So we'll say together. It is a nice night to sleep among these statues if we wanted to stay here.
I would not be opposed to staying here for the evening. Head out in the morning.
Yeah. I
Well,
would
we
love for
could-
them to return.
We could wait for them.
So we'll say you stay overnight. You're right. It's a very easy place to find camp, flat ground. You don't disrupt any of the rows and the swirls of these beautiful flowers. A day passes. Morning comes. No one arrives. Maybe towards midday. You don't see anybody nearby. You don't see anybody on the horizon. It's a very clear autumn afternoon. The wind is coming from the north. Very cold. Otherwise, it's cool. So a lot of you are kind of probably bringing your cloaks a little bit further around, but not super tight. But no one does return, unfortunately.
Well, I suppose we should go. There was no tell of where they went to.
None at
their
all,
home.
unfortunately. No. So just so you guys know, I do keep very close track of days, especially in the journey phase. So there's certain timing things that sometimes happen.
Sure.
But yes,
I would say,
unfortunately, they haven't returned.
Aurelial might have done just not that we're staying any extra time. But since she does not get as weary as everyone else does while traveling, that maybe she did just a little bit of cleaning up around their garden. It's kind of leaving it in a better place than we found it.
Very nice. Well done. So I'm just going to write a little note. Cleaned up. Okay. So if that's the case, do you want to push on or do you want to wait more? Okay.
Push on.
Okay.
Can I do a quick awareness test before we do?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. You're just looking for any vague dangers or anything
Pretty
like that?
much. Like if there's anything that, if they haven't returned, it looks like the garden has only been unkempt for like a day or like a short period
Couple
of time.
weeks, probably. Gilly would
Okay,
probably peg it
okay.
as, yeah.
So they've left kind of recently, haven't
Yes.
come back. So
Yeah.
and there doesn't seem to be any sense of conflict, but doesn't feel like it's a bad
So yeah,
idea.
go ahead and roll awareness test. I would say all of you, if you're talking this out, like it is at this point, we're into autumn. Winter is coming eventually, so it's possible maybe that they left to find safer territory during the winter. Who knows?
Okay.
So that's always a possibility. There doesn't seem to be any signs of any violence here, and so how'd you do on that awareness test?
I got a 20 total with 2 successes.
Okay, you don't see any signs of danger. I will say that you find several traps have been set up in the woods here and there. They don't look like they've been sprung, but you don't see anything necessarily in them. They don't seem to have been set up, but like they appear like the kind of traps, Tara, that somebody who lives in a place for a long time would have them set up and would be constantly sort of re-triggering them at night. So you do find some traps, but they don't look to have been tended to recently or set recently or anything like that. But no dangers otherwise.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
So-
yeah.
Okay. Make a mental note. You can very easily, in your notes, Gilly, keep track of where this is, and at some point maybe revisit, or who knows. But Irinial, if you want to make that travel test, go right ahead. And depending on how you do, this might actually be the last travel roll of the journey.
Oh,
I'm going to give you. You guys went all the way down towards where it says the angle on the map, but you actually don't need to go quite that far. Go right ahead.
Oh, goodness. I have to do math. Hold on.
Oh, okay. We don't have that kind of time, Melissa. You got
6, 7, 8. No, that's another fail.
okay. Let's see. That actually puts you all right on the bridge, which I'll say is good enough for now. We don't have to do a whole other thing. It's fine. Okay, you didn't do a Sauron though. As long as you don't do a sorry, we'll just say we can.
No, sorry.
We'll leave it here. So eventually, you go through this forest a day later. The wind is starting to kick up. Much again, you can see it's been something like a week, almost 2 since you left Tharbad. I have to do the exact math and count the hexes, but it's roughly 2 weeks since you've left Tharbad. So you're even further into autumn at this point. And as you pass through this thicket, this forest, that is roughly a day's worth of travel, that is along the southern edge of this Great East Road, you eventually push through and you see the road itself. Now, all of you, this is a familiar sight to everyone. Everyone in this group, even Tara, I know you weren't with the Fellowship earlier in the campaign. You have been here before. In the last East Bridge, the rest of you, Floy and Irinial and Gilly, you all saw this as your very first trek to Angmar. You got very close to the last bridge, but instead turned northward. And so for the first time, probably the 3 of you are crossing it. Tara, you've probably crossed it before. It's intact, unlike Tharbad's. It's definitely intact, and it's one of the last places to kind of turn back before you get to more uncivilized areas. At least that's the rumor. Tara, you would know that that's how the Rangers want it. They don't want this Ranger Haven to be known. There's reasons for that. Primarily, they don't want the whisper of a settlement of Rangers somehow getting back to the enemy, because then who knows what might befall the lands. At this point, as far as your people understand it, Sauron and the enemy, their eyes are primarily fixed on Gondor. And although there are scatterings of orcs and different enemies out west in Eriador, they're not nearly as total as they would be elsewhere. The bridge itself is it's stone, it's arced here and there. You also notice that it is kind of a little more than a knee-high barrier on each side. So if it was storming or if it was rain slick, it might be a little treacherous crossing over here or there if you're not being careful. It's a very, very old bridge as well. And you can see below that the Horwell is just rushing past. It's like almost rapids at this point as you look below. Very, very cold as you're kind of up at the peaks and you're getting these tight little winds. Eventually, though, you cross over. And sometime as the evening begins to settle, as you're on the eastern side, you look off to the north. Tara, maybe Ari might even know this. The Trollshall is this forest that is aptly named Extends. It's a very dangerous place. But Tara, you would know at this point it's time to turn southward. And you probably point off in the distance as you can see this forest begin to kind of grow in sort of this incline of hills. The sun is going down in the far west. It becomes dusk at this point. And if you have a very sharp eye, very, very sharp eye, you can see that on some of those forested hills, perhaps a day away, there is the tiniest plume of smoke that begins to rise up right as the sun falls. It's almost imperceptible. And you know that, Tara, that is the Chieftain's Lodge, where your people of the Ranger settlement gather for business. And that is where you are heading. And you are a mere day away. And I think that's where we're going to end for tonight. and we will pick up next week, arriving there with a full party, and we will kind of go from there.
Amazing.
Very cool. Dude, we survived
For sure.
the journey.
We'll do the official conclusion of the journey rules at the end, because technically you are still, I think, 2 hexes away. So from where I was considering the end of the journey. So we'll do the resolution of the journey phase. So don't change anything with fatigue or anything like that. We'll do like one last roll and kind of figure that out next time. All right.
This was so great. Oh my god.
Okay. Yeah, it's like Steven is out of town this weekend, so Daggett has just been kind of along for the ride. Got some strange news from Radagast along the way, but I'll share that with Steven, and he can choose to share it with you all if he so wishes, or he can just keep it to himself. So that was I hope you had fun. I love the journey phase because I feel like that's so much of what Middle Earth is about, like traversing these wide open lands where you're traveling over dead kingdoms, like these old lands and villages and things like that. And sometimes it's there in the physical world. Sometimes it kind of breaks through and you can see the spirits of the dead here and there. So I don't know. Hope you enjoyed it.
Super cool.
All right. Why don't we do some plugs and stuff, and then we'll get on out of here. So Maitre, where can we find you on the interwebs?
I am I played Terneth, your Warden Ranger of the North, and I am Maitre Plays Games on YouTube, where I make multi-system, system agnostic content about tabletops. If you want to check it out, taking a bit of a break from content creation right now, but I have a backlog of about 40-minute videos that are like 15-ish minutes if you want to watch those. But yeah, that's who I am. Thank you so much for having me, and this was so much fun.
Fantastic. We're so glad to have you. It's awesome. I love expanding the cast, and I think it's a really important time for you to come to get a second ranger. This is going to be serious, as we're going right into a ranger haven. So this is great.
Yeah.
Melissa knows that like I had the journey planned a little while back. So like I already had the journey planned, but today I was working on some other things and I was getting really excited about some of the things that are coming down the pike here in this next session or two. So I'm very excited for this. And it's not necessarily to kill you all. It's just some reveals, some people, some social engagement. Like I'm pretty
lore
excited
drop. I'm excited.
Yes. Oh,
I try not to overdo it. If I ever overdo it, I'm sorry. I try to keep it at a level. I try not to go too deep with it.
I have never even gotten close to feeling like it's too much. So
I always tell I tell my students this a lot because I'm a writing instructor and all that kind of stuff. And so I do always tell my students, like when they're writing stories, like there's always like there's a Goldilocks, there's a middle ground. Because when you start to explain too much, then like people start to pick it apart or they demand more. But if you don't explain enough, then it always feels too shallow. So finding that middle ground where you're like conveying enough of the world to make it feel rich, but not so much of the world where people are going to pull it apart and question the veracity of things. So I'm always trying to find that gap with Tolkien in here. Because I am not Tolkien. I am just Jeff. Okay. So what else we got going on? Monday, you can catch Melissa and I. We are back to Holler for Savage Worlds. Our dear friend Tracy Sizemore has finished up her run as shift boss, and I will jump back into that seat, which was quite bigger and more difficult to fill now that Tracy has just made everybody realize just how amazing Holler is when a competent GM is there to run it. So I'm going to do my best. And then on Tuesday, we're back to Forbidden Lands, where our dear friend Daggett is running that game. So come check that out as Steven puts us to the task. Next Friday, we are finishing up Blade Runner. It'll be our conclusion of Blade Runner. Our run of Blade Runner comes to an end, Memories of Fire. And then we'll be back on Saturday, obviously, with more One Ring. If you haven't already followed the channel, please do. I think we were sitting at 899 followers, and I really need this, guys. I really need that 900. It defines my life. So if anyone hasn't followed, please do. And also check out the YouTube page. Look for Adventures in Lollygagging on YouTube. We have all of our current games, all of our past games. So if you want to see other things that we've done, please go right ahead and do so. And we also have a few podcast feeds as well. Search for Adventures in Lollygagging or The Waking of Angmar, or what else do we have? Lollygagging on the Orient Express. And you can find a lot of our content in audio only format. And I think did we just get a 900? Oh my God, I think someone just did it right now. I can only see part of the name.
Thank you.
Linda Angel. I can't catch it all. Linda Angel. Thank you so much. Congratulations on being the 900th follower of the channel.
Amazing.
It's awesome. Oh, I didn't realize this begging stuff works. All right. Well, I have been taught a lesson, and now I will overplay that hand. All right. Thank you to everyone going out tonight. Thank you to Infinite Monkey Tales for the raid. Thank you for those of you who threw out some bits to support both myself and the fellowship. We're going to go ahead and raid our friends over at Lost Caravan. There she is, Linda Angelique, 1981. Thank you so much. First time chat too. Thank you so much for the follow. We really do appreciate it. Speaking of following, follow the raid as we go to Lost Caravan RPG because they're playing some ttrpgs, and have a great rest of your weekend. So bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.